as near as we'll get. Recording is about to start. Right, okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thanks for attending this hybrid meeting.
Good evening,
It's not hybrid, it's virtual meeting for the Planning Committee on Tuesday, 23rd of March 2021. For those of you who don't know, my name's Councillor June Molyneux and I'm chair of the committee. Councillor Chris Francis vice chair, and also present are officers and councillors who will be asked to introduce themselves in a moment. Please note, it's a virtual meeting and a recording of the meeting will be available online following the meeting itself. If you've joined the call because you're a member of the public who has registered to speak, please note you'll have a time limit of up to 3 minutes. If you're calling on a phone, you need to press *6 to unmute your device when invited to speak. The legal officer will operate a stopwatch and confirm when your time runs out. You should then finish, or if in the middle of making a point, wind up within a few seconds and finish speaking. Otherwise, your microphone will be muted. For ease, a pack has been prepared which contains reports, plans, presentation slides and any addendum for each item to ensure everyone can follow the meeting easily. It's available online. After officers have presented the report and any speakers have made their representations, I will invite members to make any comments. When speaking, please reference the paragraph number to enable everyone to follow you. I'll repeat the motion before the vote is taken to ensure everyone is aware of what is being voted on and call upon each member alphabetically to vote. If technology fails, I'll adjourn the meeting for a few moments to try and resolve the issue, and if this is not possible, a new date and time will be organised. Next, can I ask all members to confirm they can hear and speak before the meeting begins? I'll go through everybody. Councillor Beaver?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councillor Boardman?
Yes, Madam Chair.
You better unmuted. Councillor Dodson?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councillor Gordon-Franz?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Councillor G?
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening. Councillor Gray?
Here, Chair.
Councillor Hargreaves? Councillor Hargreaves? No. Councillor Hilton?
Present, Madam Chair.
Councillor Morwood?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Whittam?
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Councillor Whittaker, good evening. Councillor France?
Good evening.
Good evening. And me, I'm here. Also, our officers, Adele, who's the service lead in planning.
I'm
Adele.
here, Chair. I'm here, Chair.
Ian
Thank
Crossland, Principal Planning Officer.
Here, Chair.
Taz
Here, Chair.
Safdar, our Legal Services Officer.
Yes.
Present, Chair.
And Nina, Democratic and Member Services Officer.
Present, Chair.
Okay. Apologies. We've had none received. Councillor Hargreaves may join us later.
Yes.
Item 1, minutes of the meeting Tuesday the 2nd of March, pages 3 to 4 on your committee. Somebody move those, please.
I'll move them, Chair. Councillor Whittam.
Thank you. Will somebody second them?
Happy to second.
Thank
Chair.
you. Unless anybody says, I will take those as read. Silence reigns. Everybody is in agreement. Declarations of any interests. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interests in respect of the matters in the agenda. As it's a virtual meeting, if a member has a pecuniary interest, they're asked to leave the call completely rather than just mute their microphone for the item. The member can rejoin the call following the completion of that item. So any declarations of interest?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Morwood, it's
Yes.
item G, row 2.
Item 3G, yes. Thank you, Chair. Planning applications. We've 7 items to be determined, but I think we've had a couple that are being deferred. For the benefit of the public here tonight, speaking arrangements for planning are as follows. The officers will summarise the report and registered speakers will be invited to speak in the following order. Objector, supporter, parish town councillor, ward councillor, applicant or agent. All registered speakers will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes, apart from a ward councillor who may speak for up to 5 minutes. In events that all speakers against an application, as chair, I will grant the applicant or representative a time extension. I would respectfully ask members of the public who have not registered to speak to remain quiet throughout the proceedings. Can you switch your mobile phones off and things? Moving on to that, we'll go on to our planning applications item 3. And before we start, can I remind members that if they are wishing to speak or to vote against the officer recommendation, they need to provide a valid planning issue or reason for that decision. Okay, with that, item 3A, 2 Oak Drive, Chorley, pages 5 to 40 in your agenda with an update on your addendum. Ian's going to present this item. The recommendation remains that full planning permission be granted subject to conditions. I have no registered speakers, so Ian, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. This application seeks full planning permission for the erection of a 2-storey building with accommodation in the roof space comprising 10 single-bedroom apartments along with associated infrastructure following the demolition of the existing building. Members will recall that this application was presented to committee on the 2nd of March, where a decision was deferred in order to allow members to undertake a site visit. Members visited the site last week on Wednesday, the 17th of March. The application site comprises a vacant care home building located within the core settlement area of Chorley on a private drive adjacent to the A6 M61 link road at Millennium Way. The site is a previously developed land in a sustainable location where there's a presumption in favour of sustainable development as set out in the framework and the Chorley local plan. There are no policies in place that will protect the retention of the care home or the existing building. The proposed building will be of a traditional form with some contemporary window features and will be faced in brick. It would have a smaller footprint in comparison with the existing building that will be replaced and will be slightly higher at eaves level, whilst the ridge height of the proposed building would be more noticeably higher. The application site itself is not a prominent one, being screened by dense landscaping from Millennium Way to the north and set back from the head of the cul-de-sac at Rowan Grove to the south, whilst Oak Drive itself is a private road. As such, public views of the site are limited. It's noted that the existing site suffers a sense of abandonment and the proposed development has the potential to improve on this appearance. In relation to the impact on the amenity of neighbouring occupiers, it's noted that there is already an impact from the existing building that's on the site. It's considered that the proposed development would have no unacceptable detrimental impacts on residential amenity in consideration of the current situation, subject to the inclusion of some obscure glazed windows and the provision of appropriate boundary treatment. The council's parking standards will be met, and LCC Highways have assessed the scheme and raised no objection. It is therefore considered that the proposed development would not have a significant impact on highway safety, capacity, or amenity in the immediate vicinity of the site. There would also be secure bicycle storage on the site. There are no ecological concerns in relation to the development, and it's not in a flood risk area. As such, a number of surface water drainage solutions could be implemented. Overall, the proposed development is considered to be in accordance with the policies of the development plan and is recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Ian. Over to you, members. If you want to speak, if you raise your hand virtually, please, that would help. So it's over to you. Councillor Morwood.
Thank you, Chair. You would expect it me to speak on this as it's in my ward. No. But it's not always automatic. But I do know this site. I note the report. It talks about it being bigger, higher than the existing building. The existing building, I agree, is a mess. It doesn't do anything for that private drive, and so something should be done. But I'm not really. I wasn't happy before, and I went along to the site to remind myself what it looked like, and I still feel that, despite the fact that highways think everything is fine, and I know they only seem to talk about the number of parking spaces, which is interesting. A small car park in the middle of 3 houses, but they don't seem to be concerned at all about the traffic movements of up to 12 cars going in and out at all times and any times, especially if I remember the developer talking about it being aimed at NHS staff and so forth, which is laudable. However, they do work shifts, so they'll be in and out at all sorts of times. So you know, the actual amenity would be, I think, would become poorer for that. But my main objection really is to the actual size and scale of the building. I mean, the footprint, yes, is a little bit smaller, but it's higher, and so that gives you that appearance to sort of. I just feel that it will just overshadow the only other two properties on either side. So you'll be kind of squashed and taller, and will just look out of place. I just think the idea is a sound one, but the scale and size of it is just too much for that small private drive. But I'll leave it there. But at the moment, I'm minded to possibly refuse this application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor France, Gordon France.
Thank you, Chair. When we went on the site visit, there was some concern about ownership of the land, which I know is not normally a planning consideration, but in this case, it was the land where the parking places were to go. Now, I know Ian said this could be conditioned. Could it be conditioned that these parking places, it has to be verified, these parking places can actually be secured before any building issues are started? That's just my question.
Ian, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I'm just checking through the proposed conditions. It is normal to condition the provision of parking spaces that they be laid out prior to the occupation of the building. If there's no condition that's been proposed on the report, then you know that is something that the council could attach if that's what the members would like to happen.
I think I would like to see that attached if possible, Chair, because obviously whilst ownership is not normally an issue, it is if they can't provide the 14 parking places.
Okay. I've got Councillor G, Councillor Beaver. Councillor G.
Thank you, Chair. As I went on the site visit as well. Just a question. I'm just reading the report. It says that the building is 2 stories high, but I presume it's higher than 2 stories. Have I read it wrong somewhere? Can I just ask that question before I carry on, please?
Ian?
Yes, through you, Chair. So the building is described as a 2-story building. In that it's the additional accommodation that you're thinking about is in the roof space rather than a floor of the building. So in effect, it'd be almost like converting the attic or loft space of a building, but it would be built in that way. So it is a 2-story building, but it would include 2 apartments in the roof space. If that makes it clear.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think you're. Yeah. As I said, the building itself. No objection to the building itself because it's a substantial building. It's what we need. But my main concern and objection is the entrance and the like everyone else there, the parking facilities that you got there. You're coming into a very narrow road. It's a private road, and it's got access to the first house. Then you got the building, that proposed building. Then you got the third house, right, or the second house that's already there at the top. I can it's great problems with the parking area. You've got 10 houses. You're going to have at least 10 cars, maybe more. 10 houses, 15, 20 cars, I don't know, but there's going to be a lot of cars. I can see the problem with the parking, the problem with the area, and with being a private road, I think it's inappropriate for where it is, and I do worry about it. But I will listen to what it said before I make a judgment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Beaver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, at the last meeting, I gave the opinion and proposed an opposition to this application on the grounds that it was out of character with the rest of the estate, which is full of detached and semi-detached houses. And I don't believe that parachuting a block of flats into that area is acceptable. It was touched on already that the NHS staff would occupy this. And I mentioned at the last meeting, there is no requirement because Dutchbound Close and 4 houses on Ifield Road North were sold off because there was no requirement. And I agree that if Councillor France was proposing a condition that parking be secured prior to development, I would second that. And I just remember that remind people that Councillor Law mentioned last week about the nightmare that estate is already, and that we're adding 10 flats and however many cars to the problem. So I oppose the planning officer's recommendation and move for refusal. Thank you.
Grounds?
It's out of context with the area, that it's a block of flats in the middle of detached and semi-detached houses.
Okay, thank you. Right, I've got Councillor Hargreaves. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. I'm likewise to Councillor France. I'm concerned the ridge height that was explained by the officer. The ridge height itself is raised, and you probably can't see that as well from the front of the building looking up. But the end, I still go on to the end of it, the apex end of it, that actually is the side where the bungalow is still too high, I feel. And I still have a concern about overshadowing, and that hasn't changed. There is one other thing I would like to know is the 2 gates at the access. There's 2 gates that are they going to be permanently opened? And obviously, you know, conditions. Is an agreement for those 2 gates to be permanently opened, because when we arrived at the site visit, those gates weren't opened. They were subsequently opened so we could get through. But are those gates going to be removed if there are going to be 10, you know, cars for as many people moving in and out of there? And I'd just like to ask that question.
Ian, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, will do, Chair. Yeah, through you. That's actually a private matter. Private civil matter that would need to be resolved outside of the planning process between the various landowners and anyone with the right of access over the land. Okay. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Whittaker, then Councillor Morwood again. Councillor Beaver, do you want to speak again, or have you just not taken your hand down?
I've just not taken my hand down, Madam Chair. I shall rectify that now.
Sorry. Thank you very much. Councillor Whittaker.
Thanks, Chair. I wasn't able to go on the site visit, but I do know the area very well. The thing that concerns me, listening to what's been said, it is a care home now. People came and went to that particular place in the past. I wonder about what's the alternative. The access happened in the past. People came and went. Care homes end up, people go early mornings, evenings, and so on and so forth. So I have some concerns about finding proper reasons for refusal.
Okay. Councillor Morwood, and then I've got Councillor Boardman.
I'm happy to give proper reasons, Chair.
Please do.
Councillor Beaver will allow. I mean, it's along the same lines, but I know that Adele and the rest of the officers will no doubt want something a bit more specific, and I'm scribbling my notes now, but just to, while I'm thinking and writing at the same time, well, so almost thinking and writing at the same time, just to clarify, it was a care home, but it's never actually been a care home. That's what it was built for, but it never actually came to fruition. In fact, I mean, looking at that building, if it was just the same size, then possibly we could think, well, it's already there. If it's just a replica and a redevelopment on the inside, they could possibly get away with it. But it was planned as a care home, but it never came to fruition. And it'd be interesting if it had been brought up as a care home now, whether we would have allowed it now as opposed to 10 years ago, I think, maybe when it was built with the intention of being a care home, but it's never done that. So therefore, no traffic has ever gone in and out. And I would suggest that even if it was a care home, the fact is that the residents would not be going in and out. The only traffic would be maybe half the numbers of people who are looking after them, the staff and so forth. So I don't think it would have been anywhere near as many as up to 12 cars. And we talk about the 12 cars, we're forgetting about the 2 and 3 cars of the other 2 properties that are either side. So we're talking about 15, 20 cars potentially going up and down a private drive. But anyway, I shall perhaps, now I've had a chance to scribble, and perhaps the officers will bear with me and maybe be able to just confirm what I've written. I'd like to propose that refusal for this application due to the size and scale of the building. The proposal would result in overdevelopment of the site to the detriment of the character and appearance of the immediate area, and that therefore, excuse me, I'm just checking my notes again, the proposal will be contrary to policy BNE1, which I believe is the design criteria for new development of the Chorley Local Plan 2012, and I think it's 2026. I think I've done it in the past saying 21, but I think it's 2026. Hopefully that would suffice. Certainly that's what I propose anyway. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Boardman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hope you can hear me okay, actually. But we'll have to say I'm a little bit shocked to the comments of the committee tonight. It's not so long ago that we had a similar application than this come into us. And I think we as a committee, we have to be seen as being consistent with our decisions, or we risk those decisions being challenged at appeal. With that, I'd just like to comment on this application for a double-storey, 2-storey loft-converted building, which in reality scale for 10 units is quite small, to be honest with you. Yes, it is on a relatively small site, and it is down a cul-de-sac. But the building that stands on there at the minute, as Councillor Morwood has said, used to be, well, was given permission as a care home. If that care home was in operation, which it could open its doors tomorrow as, there will be considerably more traffic movements. A care home requires a number of staff, and a care home normally has around about 2 members of staff per patient, basically, or per resident, depending on the conditions. So I'd be quite fearful of quite a few more traffic movements on that site than less. It gets back to the comparison. In August 2020, this committee granted planning permission for a 51-bedroomed independent living development at Tatton. Tatton was in the middle of a residential area full of 2-storey dwellings. I was the only committee member to speak against this, where every other committee member approved this. I was very concerned about the sheer scale, size and massing of that building within a residential area. Here we have a building which is substantially smaller, providing just 10 residential units, and there is no comparison between the two. This is considerably smaller in the same residential area, has actually got parking for all the apartments that are being provided. So with my consistent approach head on, I would say I would fully support the officer's recommendation, and I would look for somebody else to second that.
Okay, thank you. So as it stands, I have a proposer for refusal, Councillor Morwood, no seconder as yet. Would somebody like to second that?
Yes, Madam Chair. Aaron.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Beaver. It went very quiet then. And I have a proposer for the officer recommendation. Will somebody like to second that?
Yes, Madam Chair. Councillor John Dalton.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Thank you. So I will take the amendment first. The proposal for refusal due to the size and scale of the building, over development of the site, etc. As Councillor Morwood stated, I will go through everybody. So it's for or against the for or against refusal. Councillor Beaver, for or against refusal.
For, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Boardman.
Against, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Dalton.
Against, Chair.
Councillor Gordon France.
For.
Councillor G.
Again, for refusal, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Councillor Gray, keep up. Councillor
Against.
Gray. Right, thank you. Councillor Hargreaves.
Against.
Yeah. For.
Thank you. Councillor Hilton.
Abstain.
Oh, I've not put that box on. Councillor Marwood.
For refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Whittam.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Whitaker.
Abstain.
Councillor Chris France.
Against.
And myself. I'll abstain. Thank you. So I make that, let me just check that, for 6 votes for, 4 against and 3 abstentions. Do you agree with me, sir?
I do, Chair, that's correct.
Excellent. So on that, the planning permission is refused. Thank you. Moving on. Item
On
B3.
on what grounds, Chair? Do we not need to just
on the grounds that the size, as Councillor Marwood stated, I couldn't write it all down in the time. Did we get that? The size and scale over development of the site.
Do you want me to repeat it, Chair, or has the
please
officers got it? I said
do you want me to
go on, Adele?
Sorry,
yeah,
Chair, it's Adele. Do you want me to repeat my notes,
yeah,
please? My understanding of the reason for refusal that was proposed by Councillor Mordwood is that the proposed building, by reason of its size, scale and massing, would be out of character with surrounding development and would result in overdevelopment of the site, contrary to the appearance of the locality. The proposed development is therefore contrary to policy BNE1, which is the design criteria for new development of the Chorley Local Plan 2012 to 2026.
Thank you, Adele. You took much better notes than I did.
And said it much better than me as well.
I ran out of room on my page. Okay, moving on. Is that okay, Councillor Boardman? Item 3B has been withdrawn, as has item 3C. So we move on to item 3D, land formerly known as Quick Save and Chorley Service Station, Preston Road, Chorley, pages 41 to 74 with an update on your addendum. The officer recommendation is that planning permission is granted subject to conditions, and I have 2 registered speakers, the objector Louise Parkinson and the agent Matthew Gray. Louise, Matthew, can you confirm you're able to speak and hear?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I got 2 voices then. Ian, could you present the report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This application seeks planning permission for the erection of a drive-through coffee shop with car parking and other associated works. The application site comprises a vacant plot of land located in a prominent position at the junction of Preston Road and Chorley Hall Road on a main arterial route into Chorley. The site was previously occupied by a convenience retail store and a petrol filling station, which were demolished, and the site has been vacant for around 20 years. There have been no development proposals for the site since a roadside service station was approved in 2002. However, this was never implemented. The proposal would result in the development of a vacant plot of land with a drive-through coffee shop, which is technically a town centre use. The applicant has submitted a sequential assessment that sufficiently demonstrates that there are no in-centre or edge-of-centre opportunities that are suitable and available and which should be favoured over and above the application site. There are also no other sites for consideration. The site is in a highly sustainable location, accessible to a large catchment of customers within the immediate locality. And given the relatively small scale of the proposed development, it would not detract from the function, vitality and viability of Chorley Town Centre and is considered to be acceptable in principle. The proposed building will be modern and unobtrusive, whilst the siting will be compatible with surrounding developments. The building itself would have no adverse impact on neighbour amenity, given its modest scale, A noise report has been submitted which concludes that noise from the proposed development is unlikely to result in any impacts on nearby residential properties, and this assessment has been verified and accepted by the Council's Environmental Health Officer. An air quality assessment has also been submitted which has been assessed by the Council's Environmental Health Officer, who considers that the findings demonstrate that the impacts of the proposed development would not lead to an unacceptable risk from air pollution or to any breach of national air quality objectives. It's recognised that the development does have some potential to create disturbance if allowed to operate without restriction. It is therefore recommended that hours of operation are imposed, restricting the use to not beyond 10 p.m. in the evening. A number of concerns have been raised in relation to a range of highway safety issues. A transport assessment has been submitted in support of the application, which has been reviewed by Lancashire County Council Highways in consideration of the site access, parking and impacts on the local highway network. The County Council have acknowledged the previous uses of the site and raised no objection to the proposed development on highway safety grounds, and have not identified any severe residual cumulative impacts on the local highway network. All issues are covered in detail within the committee reports. Overall, the application is considered to be acceptable in accordance with the policies of the development plan and is recommended for approval subject to the conditions set out on the addendum. Thank you, Chair.
Muted. I'm muted. Oh, okay, thanks for that, Ian. Louise, would you like to speak now, please?
Thank you, Chair.
And Taz, can you start the timer?
Local residents would welcome the right development. However, despite some changes post-application, we still have numerous concerns, particularly around the only exit being on Chorley Hall Road and its impact on road safety for residents. The site layout shows the only exit just 2 car lengths from the Preston Road junction. This junction is very tight. If a car enters as another is waiting to leave Chorley Hall Road, it usually mounts or clips the curb. Increasing traffic here creates safety concerns for pedestrians and drivers. In addition, the swept path analysis in the transport statement shows large cars exiting left from the site, going into the path of oncoming traffic on Chorley Hall Road, increasing the likelihood of accidents. Preston Road is the main route in and out of Chorley, and traffic backs up to B&Q at busy times. At others, traffic travels up the hill at speed from B&Q and meets cars from the Park Road, Chorley Hall Road, petrol stations and the new Calder House junctions. This local knowledge, not theoretical lines on a drawing or predictions in a report, tells us we often wait 5 to 10 minutes to exit left here, and you can forget turning right. With 48 predicted additional vehicle movements per hour, combined with existing traffic, cars will back up on the junction and within the site. Would you wait, or would you turn right and cut through the estate? This will push a significant number of vehicles per hour onto very narrow residential streets, not highways. At only 4.8 metres curb to curb, with cars double parked, particularly at the bottom and top of Highfield Road and on the junctions themselves, we often have to wait to get into Highfield Road or give way to get up the street itself. The estate's 20-mile-an-hour limit is often disregarded despite the hazards. Accidents such as a neighbour's child being knocked down several years ago or my car being hit as I reversed into my drive are not in Lancashire's records, but they happened. Any increase in traffic on the estate streets will make it harder, if not impossible, to drive up Highfield Road. It will increase the danger for residents accessing their drives and the potential for damage to parked cars, as well as increasing the danger for parents parking on the Highfield Road South, Chorley Hall Road junction, dropping their children off for the nursery, and increasing noise and air pollution for residents. All this is in addition to the increased potential for accidents from the rise in traffic volume and strangers ignoring the 20-mile-an-hour limit. Traffic calming measures after the event won't prevent this. The developer may say the red gates on Chorley Hall Road represent a precedent. As a resident of 50 years standing, I can confidently tell you those gates have only been there since the site was cleared. The petrol station had all formal entrances and exits on Preston Road. We therefore ask you to reject this application as it currently stands on the grounds of impact on road safety for local residents from the Chorley Hall Road exit. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Matthew, would you like to speak now?
Yeah.
Taz, can you start the timer? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank committee on behalf of the applicant, EG Group, for the opportunity to address you today in relation to the application proposing the erection of a drive-through coffee shop at the former Quick Save and Chorley service station site at Preston Road. Firstly, I'd like to thank officers for their professionalism, hard work and assistance throughout the COVID period. They've been a credit to the authority. The application site comprises a prominent vacant brownfield plot of land located at the junction of Preston Road and Chorley Hall Road. It has historically been used as a convenience store and petrol filling station. The site has stood vacant for around 20 years. The application has been subject to extensive post-submission dialogue with officers and the various statutory consultees. It has received full support from the bodies consulted, including Lancashire County Council Highways, resulting in a positive recommendation from your professional officers. Whilst the officers' report has sought to comprehensively address the material planning considerations, I will take the opportunity to reinforce that the application accords with the spirit of both local and national planning policy. The comments of the objectors have been noted. Notwithstanding, members will note in the Comprehensive Officer's report that the applicant has worked positively and proactively with the Council in suggesting an hours of operation restriction. Further to this, acoustic fencing at the site boundary will further mitigate any impact in respect of amenity. Alterations have also been made to the entrance and exit of the site by way of the introduction of security bollards in order to ensure the development is comprehensively secure during non-operational hours. EG Group operate in excess of 150 coffee drive-thrus throughout the UK and are market leaders in the management of such facilities. In respect of highway matters, Lancashire County Council have comprehensively assessed the proposed development and provided positive feedback. Given the long-term nature of the vacancy at the site, its prominence and historic use for commercial purposes, the proposed development comprises a logical use of the land. It will result in significant economic benefits by way of the creation of circa 20 jobs, the majority of which will be filled by young people in the local area. The job creation and economic benefits comprise a material consideration in the determination of this application. As members will be aware, Section 38 of the Town and Country Planning Act requires decisions to be made in accordance with the development plan, unless other material considerations dictate. The application has been rigorously assessed by officers who have recommended approval. Further to this, no statutory consultee is objective. The comments from objectors have been noted and positive alterations to the scheme before members today have been provided. Given there are no other material considerations which negatively outweigh this, on balance, the application accords with planning policy at a local and national level, and it's respectfully requested that the application is approved.
Thank you. Right, over to you, members. Oh, everybody all at once. Councillor Beaver, Councillor G, then Councillor Boardman.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to congratulate the objector on the points that she's made, because many of them are what I would like to bring out. The first being that highways often, in our opinion, get it wrong. They said there's no problem. But I live close to this site, and you cannot turn left out of Chorley Hall Road without clipping the curb or going over the white line. And that means then that traffic coming from town centre has to be clear. There has to be no traffic. Even today, you cannot get out of that junction without crossing the white line. You can't turn into Chorley Hall Road if there's a car sat there waiting. So that's going to be backing up down the hill. It will turn down into Highfield Road South. But the interesting thing is that within the application, they're saying how they're going to attract most of their custom by passing trade, 80% of it, because they expect the staff to walk there or cycle. They expect customers who live as far away as the Seaview, down to Pall Mall, the Lock and Key pub, and the Asda Erection to walk. They expect people who live as far away as the M61 junction with the 65, Brinskull, Adlington, and Eccleston to cycle. They're providing 2 electric charges. Now, why do they need an electric charge if they're relying on passing vehicles as trade? Something about this tells me that what will come won't be a coffee house. It'll be something else. But that's another matter. I don't understand why they're going to book electric charging vehicles for someone who's passing. It's not a place within itself. They're saying it's not a destination. So why does it need charging? Which leads me to why it's going to be something else. One of the plans when it first submitted was about the pedestrian crossing just in front of it, and that coming into Preston, it had to be a dedicated right turn to get into the site, or they had to move the entrance for the site. I believe, and I haven't seen it written anywhere, that they're going to remove that island. That is a loss of amenity for school children walking down Preston Road to get to St Michael's School, can't cross. If that's not danger, I'd like to know what is. There's also the thing about pollution. Now, if you remember, at a recent planning application, we discussed a KFC down in Buckshaw Village, and they did a survey on that for pollution, which was 2 miles away. I'm not talking about someone 2 miles away. I'm talking about the person who lives next door. And a fence will not stop pollution, will not stop the noise. It will just be an absolute nightmare. People will drive into the site and they will pass along the front of the shop. They will then put their order in and they'll have to rejoin the traffic that's coming in to get out. Which is why Louise mentioned that there'll be a problem on site because people coming in and people getting out are all static. Now, if members turn to page 50 of the site, you can see there that Charlie Hall Road. Now, on the opposite side of Charlie Hall Road, because part of this application says that there is no other facilities. The garage on the opposite side, today as we speak, is being fitted out with pretty much what's going to go into this place. So I don't know if need is a material planning concern, but there is no need, and especially it will then take away any problems with traffic. So I'm minded to refuse this for the moment, Madam Chair, on the grounds of highway safety, loss of public amenity, pollution, and in contribution to BNE1 of the Charlie local plan, due to residents' nature of the locality and the potential noise and disturbance to residents. And I shall leave it at that for now, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Boardman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Some of my comments echo what Councillor Beaver just said, actually. Although, and I have to say, I think the objector spoke very clearly and very precisely about some of the concerns. On first looking through this application, I think my initial concerns were that the site was the wrong way round. I am very concerned that you've got crossing traffic within the site. As Councillor Beaver said, you've got traffic leaving the drive-through road in front of the coffee shop itself, and to cross the line of traffic which comes back into the drive-through. So it's a bit of a figure of 8 going on within that small site. Within the site itself, I think really there's going to be some significant congestion. But I have to agree with the objector. The exit onto Chorley Hall Road is poor, very poor. It is very, very narrow. I do know that road quite well, and I have looked at the highways assessment that was submitted, and it does show sweeping traffic quite clearly passing the white line in the centre of that highway. So, you know, with that in mind, I would be very concerned about cars and other traffic accessing the site and using it for drive-through. If it was primarily just a retail establishment without a drive-through facility, there would be a different discussion being had, i.e. that there would only be sufficient car parking spaces for the people using the actual retail or coffee shop venue. But as it stands at the minute, I can't support the application, and I will second Councillor Beaver's recommendation to refusal.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment? Oh, I've got all kinds of hands up now all of a sudden. Adele, do you want to come in first? And then I've got Councillor Morwood and Saf.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm just conscious after everything that was discussed in terms of having a clear and precise reason for refusal on the first item. That I'm not as clear as I was on that item in terms of what the reason for refusal was. I've heard the discussion and I've heard what members have said, and at this moment in time, I can conclude that essentially members are taking a decision that is the opposite of the summary at paragraph 58, I think it is, of the report, whereby members believe there would be a severe residual cumulative impact on the local highway network, which would be an unacceptable impact on highway safety, and that is contrary to policy BNE1. I'm also mindful that Councillor Beaver raised concerns about the potential noise and disturbance given the residential locality and the traffic areas, again, which is contrary to policy BNE1. I'm a little less clear on the evidence in terms of the pollution, given that the environmental health officers have reviewed and assessed the reports that have been submitted. So I'd just like a little bit more clarification on what basis and what evidence is there in terms of pollution over and above any other commercial use on that site. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Beaver, do you want to come back on that then?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I will. As regards evidence and facts and figures, I don't have any. What I mentioned about the KFC one, they did a pollution and it was 2 miles away. Now, that's a mile or so away. So the nearest station might be a mile away from this petrol station. And I'm talking about the other side of a 6-foot fence. And if that's not close, I'd like to know what is. And with that, you're going to get all the noise because you're going to be shouting at a monitor that's asking for your order. Didn't quite get that, so they shout it louder. The cars are going to be constantly running. The cars that fumes are going to be constantly pumping out. Now, I know they're not going to put a testing station on that property, but no one can turn around and say it's not going to have an impact. You stand next to a running truck, which accumulative times will produce, and tell me that you're not affected. That's my evidence on the pollution.
Adele?
With respect, Chair, I think it's important that members are mindful that, given that you don't have that evidence, that you don't include that reason for refusal. That's my advice to you. Thank you.
I would agree with that, yes. You need hard and fast, yeah.
Accepted, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Morwood, I've got, and then somebody else. Councillor Hargreaves.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, similar to what has just been discussed, yeah, I think the emphasis should be on the potential effect on the residential area, because as Councillor Boardman is, I agree with him. I can't understand why they didn't use the experience of the previous petrol station and come in off Preston Road as you head out north, go round the back and come out onto Preston Road the other way, if you have to have it as a drive-through at all. I mean, there's no doubt that the potential for increased traffic through the estate is strong the way that it's laid out at the moment, and then that's what the emphasis I think should be on the potential harm to the immediate residential area. Thank you.
Okay. Adele, do you want to come back before I bring Councillor Hargreaves in? Adele?
Sorry about that, Chair. I was muted. Yeah, through you, Chair. Before you take it to the vote, it's just a point of clarification in terms of whether members are going to, resolve the harm is one of highway safety and one of highway amenity and residential amenity, or not include the highway safety aspects of it, given the comments of LCC. I accept you come to an alternative conclusion, but it's just for the record and to make sure that the reasons are very clear. Thank you.
Okay, we'll let other people. Councillor Hargreaves.
Just going back, Adele, you've just squashed me there, basically. I refer to agenda page 64, the photograph, whereby you've got merging traffic. You've got quite busy traffic coming up and down both ways, and the corner of that road. And I'm just trying to picture it as being a drive-through. I have no problem with a site being built on, because obviously it needs to be. I have no problem with a coffee shop. I have got a problem with a drive-through that might, increase the traffic flow. But I do have a problem with LCC's report. I'm constantly, quite frankly, displaced by the amount of times they actually say everything's fine. When you look at it, we know we live here and we see the amount of traffic. I am concerned about the traffic. As I say, I'd like to see the site built on because it's been like that for some time, but I'm not given to the fact that basically it's going to be safe, and it's not a highways concern for safety, because it definitely is, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Councillor Boardman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we need a bit of wording, don't we, surrounding
yes, we do.
highway safety. So I'd quite happily challenge LCC on this one, and let's see where we get to, because I don't think they've done their homework properly, to be perfectly honest, on this one. I've had a go at it for you, if that's okay, Adele. I would say that the application should be refused based on the access and egress from the site having unacceptable impacts on highway safety, in line with paragraph 109 of the newly released 2018 National Planning NPPF. That's okay.
Okay, Adele.
It would be helpful if we cited the development plan, given that section 38 requires that. And just as a reminder, I would again reiterate that the policy BNE1 is a general all-encompassing policy in terms of design criteria, and includes access arrangements.
Sorry, Chair, are we happy to reference both policies, BNE1 and the NPPF?
Okay. I've got, have you finished?
Yes.
Because I've got Councillor Marwood wants to come in as well. Councillor Marwood.
I'm hopefully trying to help. I think Councillor Boardman is just trying to clarify which of the policies. Can I'm hearing everybody talking about traffic. Can we be specific that we're talking, or at least I am anyway, of the vehicle traffic movements potentially through the immediate area, so it will affect the sort of the movements and the amenity through the estate. I think I'm not talking about coming off Preston Road. I mean, I think the potential is the traffic movements through Hall Road and south. Was it Highfield Road South and that area, rather than the specific problems of coming along Preston Road. I think we avoid that really, because if it gets refused, no doubt it will be appealed. Would be pushed because, as Councillor Beaver said, you haven't got the data for Preston Road, but I think to say that it will affect the amenity of Highfield Road South and the immediate area there is a much stronger argument potentially. I don't know if that makes any better, clearer, but I'm sure Adele can get something from that. Yeah. Unless Mr. Councillor Beaver's got any clarity. Thanks.
Well, I've got Councillor Hargreaves, Councillor Beaver, and then Adele. I think yes.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reiterate, basically, I'm concerned about the junctions, and that's from the estate as well. I'm concerned about all the traffic, and certainly where it meets all the junctions, because we're on the end of Chorley Hall Road. Basically, you've got two lots of traffic coming in from the right, and obviously you've got traffic on the other side coming from the other side, from the other direction. I do actually feel that the whole thing's not been really looked at properly. I'd like to see another report from LCC, and I'd like them to take into consideration the traffic from the estate and from housing there, as well as joining the merging traffic from both directions on the right-hand side. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beaver.
Thank you, Chair. Well, just to expand on what I said before, my objection, due to the residential nature of the locality and the potential noise and disturbance associated with vehicular traffic movements that would be generated through the use of this development, it is considered that there would be a harmful impact on the amenity of neighbouring occupiers, contrary to BNE1. Because what we've not discussed, and although Louise touched on it, you cannot turn right out of Chorley Hall Road, because at that point, if you want to turn right, you are now crossing 4 lanes of traffic that all have to be clear, and at busy times it is never clear. and it can only come down Charlie Hall Road, Highfield Road South.
Okay.
And that on top of all the school traffic would be absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, Adele.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think what I've heard from members is two clear and very distinct reasons for refusal. As the planning committee, you know, it's right and proper that you debate and consider the information that's put forward to you. And, you know, if you come to an alternative viewpoint than that recommended, it's important that it's justified. And, you know, having the debate, you certainly raised your concerns. In terms of highway safety, I think Councillor Boardman articulated the concerns well in terms of the issues around the access and the egress and the difficulties that would have in terms of the cumulative impacts on the highway network. Whilst we would normally rely on the advice of LTC as the local highway authority, given the local and very specific site-specific knowledge that members have, I think it's a reasonable proposition to come to a different conclusion, which clearly you have done. So in terms of the first reason for refusal on highway safety, you know, I accept that may be, you know, a position that the members want to take. With regard to the second reason for refusal, I think Councillor Beaver has articulated the concerns in terms of the impact on highway amenity as a separate entity to highway safety, and raised concerns about the noise and the general disturbance associated with traffic snaking through the residential estate. If you know my words, I take it, but I have got two very clear and distinct reasons for refusal here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is everybody happy that I moved? Councillor Beaver.
Very quick one. I think Councillor Moorwood touched on it, Chair, that if this was an access and exit on Preston Road, it would be a different story. However, we've got to judge on what we've got before us, and that's why I've come to the conclusion I have. Thank you.
Okay, I just have one proposer and a seconder for refusal on the grounds that Adele's just highlighted on the highway safety and aspect and the impact on highways amenity. So it's for or against refusal, or abstentions occur. Okay, Councillor Beaver, for or against refusal?
For.
Councillor Boardman?
For.
Councillor Dalton?
For.
Councillor Gordon-France?
For.
Councillor G?
For.
Councillor Gray?
For.
Councillor Hargreaves?
For.
Councillor Hilton?
For.
Councillor Moorwood? Councillor Moorwood, I think you might be muted.
You're right. For.
Even though I can't see.
Apologies.
Councillor Whittam? Councillor Whittam?
Hi, Chair. I think he's dropped off the call. He's been trying to.
I think we've lost him.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Whitaker?
For.
Councillor France?
For.
Myself, for. So that's a unanimous refusal on the grounds that we've just outlined. Taz, do you want to?
Correct, Chair.
To kind of.
So that's just to clarify on the grounds that have obviously already been mentioned, that application has actually been refused.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Item 3E. Marketplace, pages 75 to 88. Ian's going to present this item. You're busy tonight, Ian. I've no registered speakers. Ian.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Chair. This application is a council application seeking planning permission for the construction of replacement entrance features to the east and west entrances of Chorley Covered Market. This would involve the replacement of the existing raised spike features with powder-coated aluminium porticos reflecting the design theme of the nearby Market Walk extension. They would be of a simple modern design and form that would complement the ongoing refurbishment of the market and would have no detrimental impact on the character of the area. Overall, the proposed development is considered to be in accordance with the policies of the development plan and is recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor G.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Eating a nice lolly when I should be
when you shouldn't be.
concentrating.
You wouldn't be able to do that at committee.
It's a nice item to do. Yes, I'm happy to go with the officer's recommendation. This is an important part of the development of Chorley Market. We got rid of those two horrible spikes at the end, so this is going to make the entrance into a place that people can see that's an entrance. Hopefully it'll open the market up. It's essential for the redevelopment of the market, and so I'm happy to go along with the officer's recommendation on this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Beaver.
Thank you, Chair. I'll second that. And I just hope the sale of for the scrap value of the spikes kind of offsets the cost of the new entrance. It was an awful thing, that thing.
Okay. Who have I got? Councillor France.
Sorry, Chair, I took my hand down because Councillor Beaver seconded. I was only going to second.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak? Who's that? Councillor Boardman.
Good.
I beg your pardon, Councillor Whittaker.
Behave yourself, you two.
Long overdue, Chair. Long overdue. I think it'd be a good addition to the Chorley markets. I would like to just say that and highlight what the colour is, and it is brown. So I'm quite happy it's a neutral colour. Thank you very much.
Let's not have it blue. Let's have it blue.
Councillors, can we stick to the things?
Sorry.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to say anything? If not, I'll move to the vote. Councillor G. Or have you just not put your hand out?
Sorry.
Okay.
The ice cream's gone to my head.
It must have. Can I, seeing as nobody's spoken against, I assume, unless they say so in the next few seconds, that everybody's in favour of the recommendation. Yeah, nobody said anything else, so recommendation planning permission is granted subject to the conditions outlined. Item 3F, Escape Entertainment Unit 7, pages 89 to 104. Ian's going to present this item again. No registered speakers. Ian, over to you again.
Thank you, Chair. This application is a council application seeking planning permission for the construction of a new entrance canopy at Unit 7 within the Market Walk Shopping Centre extension. The new entrance canopy would comprise a powder-coated portico of simple modern design reflecting the finish of the existing building. It'd have no detrimental impacts on the character of the area, and overall it's considered to be in accordance with the policies of the development plan and is recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor G.
Thank you again. I'm happy to go with the officer's recommendation. This again is quite an important part because Escape were having a problem with the wind, rain coming into it. So this canopy is to help them with the development within Chorley. It is in keeping with the area, and it is the same colouring as the Market Walk. And on the last reference where the people said that they're glad they got rid of the red paint, the entrance to Chorley Market are the same colours as the new Market Walk development. That's what the market traders wanted. So we listen to people and we go along with what people like. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beaver.
Seconded, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment? If not, I'll move to the vote. Okay. All those, I'm assuming, as nobody said anything else, everybody's in favour of that recommendation. For approved planning permission. Yes, nobody said anything. So it's recommended that planning permission is granted subject to the conditions outlined. Okay. Councillor G, you've not put your hand down yet.
Chair,
Sorry?
Councillor Whittam, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I've come in on by phone there. I got kicked out of the iPad Teams call, so I've managed to get through by phone.
Okay, thanks for letting us know you're back. Thank you. Item 3G.
I'll leave at this point, Chair.
Right, thank you. Good evening.
Chair,
sorry.
Are we doing item 3G or the appeals for noting?
Oh, sorry, yes. Yeah, we'll do the appeal. You can bring him back.
I think he's left the building.
I think he's left. Okay.
Okay. We'll do item 3G then, shall we?
Well, yes, it was, yeah. Item 3G is Rosehill 44 New Street, Maudsley, pages 105 to 124. Adele's going to present this item. And it's recommended that planning permission is granted subject to conditions, no speakers. Adele?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Members are asked to note that this application is required to be reported to Planning Committee, as the applicant is Councillor Alistair Morwood, who you will all note has left the meeting room. The application site is located on New Street within the settlement of Maudsley, and the existing property is a Victorian semi-detached dwelling house. Planning permission is sought for a single-storey rear extension following the demolition of existing outbuildings. The existing chimney breast and stack would also be removed. It's considered that the proposed development is a sympathetic addition and is sufficiently separated from adjoining dwellings such that there would be no adverse impact on any occupiers. Members are asked to note that no representations have been received in connection with the proposal, and it is recommended that the application is approved. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, who's that? Councillor Hilton, Councillor Beaver.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy to propose officer recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Beaver.
Thank you, Chair. In light of no opposition within the no letters, I will second that recommendation.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment? If not, I will say everybody's in favour of the officer recommendation, and they've got a few seconds to speak now. Or okay, so it's recommended planning permission is granted subject to the conditions mentioned. Okay, item 4, the appeals report, pages 125 to 126. Adele, do you wish to comment on the appeals report?
I will do, Chair. Yeah, that members will note there's only one appeal that's been lodged in the last month, and it will be dealt with by written representations. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Item 5, any urgent business previously agreed with the Chair. Councillor Hilton, you said you would wish to say something.
Yeah, I just wish to just to pass a comment. Obviously, it's 1 year since the first lockdown began, and things have changed quite dramatically for everyone. So I'd just like to, first of all, pay tribute to the people of Chorley for putting up with everything that's been going on and doing such a wonderful job. I also wanted to thank the officers for allowing these meetings to continue. Planning officers, IT officers, democratic services and everything. I take my hat off to you all for allowing us to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would concur with everything that he said. Thank you very much for your input. Okay, that's the end of business for tonight. Thanks, everybody, for your attendance. Safe journeys home or to your front rooms or wherever. And the meeting's now closed. ICT.
Thank you, Chair.
Can you stop the recording?